so convenient. I love it. I think that was. Yeah.
Are we ready to go then? Well, good morning, everyone. I apologize for the fact that I got up so early this morning and left the house so early. I forgot my Tibetan bowl with which I usually open the meeting. Wake people up. You at home and you here can applaud if you want. But it's still a very sacred tradition in my mind. Welcome to the November 2022 meeting of the Richmond, Central Virginia IONS Community Group. As most of you know, IONS stands for Institute of Noetic Sciences. It's an organization created by Edgar Mitchell, who was the lunar landing module pilot of Apollo 14. And like several of those guys who walked on the moon back in the Apollo days, he had his own takeaway from the experience, which was a unity consciousness experience that he had on the way back to Earth and seeing the Earth from a distance as a pale blue dot and so forth. And so that was an inspiration for him to want to dedicate the rest of his life to exploring the frontiers of consciousness, especially the interplay between science and spirit. And so IONS was created as a vehicle for that in, I think, July 1973 or so, and has been going ever since. It's based in Petaluma, California. It's a nonprofit 501c3 organization. And it has been a vehicle through which many minds have been awakened around the world. There are community groups of IONS across the United States, Mexico, Canada, some in South America, some in Australia, some even, I think, in India maybe, and there's a number of them in Europe as well. So, and we are very pleased and proud and blessed in this group to be one of the oldest of the continuously operated community groups in the whole IONS network. We're closing in on 27 years of operation as of January of this coming year, and we've been getting together like this, having these secret meetings and this secret information we've been transmitting all these years on the third Saturday of each month, and doing so under the cloak of Methodist churches and places like that, and Baptist churches and Episcopal churches, and hiding in plain sight, if you will. And so we are very blessed, and we've been through the years have been able to keep going because of the enthusiasm of those who attend our meetings and the participation that they give us through donations, which is the only way we survive. So when the love offering basket is passed around, it's in the back, and some of you have put the money into the kitty already, but we do have rent to pay and other expenses each month. So we invite you to reach into the bottom of your pocket and the bottom of your heart, and where the two come together, put that in the basket, if you will, because without that we cannot survive. And for those of you on Zoom, we ask you to consider going on our website, and we have a PayPal function where you can make a donation there as well. We started that when the pandemic came along. We went to all Zoom because we had no place to meet, and that was in March of 2020, I guess, and then the following year we were able to resume in-person meetings in June of 2021. But it continued with a Zoom function as well, because along the way we picked up some people from distant locations who wanted to come to our meetings. We're inviting the world and welcome everyone who joins us from whoever they are, wherever they are. The only criteria to be a member of that group is just showing up. I would like to also announce that I've got a couple of things we're going to do that's a little bit unusual this morning in terms of announcements. One is that our group has decided to collaborate with for the group called Sanctuary of Earth, which Susanna Calvert is the creator of, and I'm very pleased to be a part of it. And that is as of December 7th of this year, starting a new once a month. Is it once a month? Is it, Suzanne? Speaker series. It will be only on Zoom, but it will be on. That's a December 7th. I think it's a Wednesday night, and it's the first Wednesday of each month. It will be from 7 to 8:30. And so we will be sending out notices for that. The first one is one by apparently a very well-known speaker named Rohini Ross, and with an excellent resume. She will be speaking on the topic called Rewilding Love. It's a rewilding love, which is, I'm not sure, I think it's about expressing our love in a way that is holistic and in harmony with the planet and with nature and so forth, and treating ourselves with each other the way we also would like to treat the planet and nature. Is that somewhere in the ballpark, Suzanne? And so you'll be getting an extra notice for that. And Susanna's got a wonderful lineup of speakers going forward. So each month you'll be getting a notice for the first Wednesday of the month from 7 to 8:30. If you want to join in on Zoom, it's not an in-person thing, but it will be a great series. And this is more. I believe the theme of it is more not just this talk, but generally speaking, is more about the practice of spirituality than theory and so forth, as a general statement. The other unusual aspect of today is we're going to have Robert Bushman get up for a moment here and give us some info on this new book exchange idea that he's created. So I'll turn the floor over to Robert for a second.
Do you wake up every morning with sagging bookshelves? You have a bunch of books lying around, you have to shuffle from place to place to make a spot for your coffee mug? You have these and other problems caused by an excess of books? We have the solution for you. You gather up those books each third Saturday of the month and bring one down here to our meeting. We have some of these books in the back, just to the right of the doorway. So after our meeting, please check them out and load up. Maybe take a few more home with you. And in our future meetings, before you come to our meeting, look around and gather up some of these that you don't need or you know you're never going to read or you're already through with. Bring them on down and put them on our table. And better still, take more home with you. Take all you like. They're all free. So help yourself and enjoy.
Robert, I'm very thankful that Isabel couldn't make it today because she's accused me on occasion of having one too many books. And she doesn't even know that most of them that I have are in storage. Carol Louie is going to do the opening meditation for us today, so Carol, come on up.
Good morning. I was thinking this morning about the view that we're getting from space from the James Webb Telescope. I wonder what Edgar Mitchell would think about that, and how it is causing us or helping us to expand our consciousness about our worldview. So let's just take a moment. If you've seen any of those images, hold that in your mind for just a moment. as the telescope floats in space, in all of that space between all of those stars and planets, and the new star that they just discovered is birthing. Feel the wonder of this world. This beautiful creation that we are a part of. And now in this room, we are creating our own little universe, full of multiverses. Each and every one of us has our own world within us. Our own personal perspective of how we feel, experience, and view the world. Our own lens. And yet also within us is a deeper view, a soul view. So call upon that energy right now. As we open our minds and our hearts to the experience today, let us ask our soul to see it in the way that is perfect for each and every one of us. As we move individually within our universe, part of the collective, and then as we go out into community and share our thoughts and feelings about who we are and who this world is with others. Now take a moment to breathe in the unconditional love that is the energy of soul, of the divine. We know that we're not separate from that divine, but that it is within us in every cell of our being. Let it expand beyond your physical body, which it is not restricted by. Feel it touch the person next to you with love. As we create sacred space right here and right now. As we give thanks ahead for what we are about to receive, food for our soul. We give thanks ahead. And we send that gratitude out into the world. And so it is.
Thank you, Carol. Today we are, is this too loud?
You're okay.
Okay. Today we're privileged to have another wonderful speaker for our group, who is often an attendee at our group as well, named Mo Regulinski. Mo is here to talk about family constellation. Well, the title of the talk is Health, Belief, and Channeling with Family Constellation, or constellations, I guess. I've been hearing about family constellation therapy, if that's the proper term, for at least a decade or more. I've never known much about it. It always sounded a little bit scary, like it might get kind of personal if you get in the center of the storm, as it were. But I've also heard that it is one of the most dynamic and effective ways for people to identify what some of their issues are and help and resolve them. And so I'm delighted that we have someone here today who is not only a practitioner but a real authority and expert on this subject. And I look forward, and we all propose to have as our speaker today, Mo Regulinski. So I will not be taking too much of the time already for you. Thank you very much.
Lower it. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, everybody, for being here. Oops, you took my papers. There's some papers there. My papers were in your papers. We could go wild, but I probably shouldn't be turning around all the time. So my name is Mo Regulinski, and one of the things I'm really excited about today is that November is Diabetes Awareness Month in the United States of America, and we're going to use that theme throughout this talk, the theme of diabetes. And Dan, would you give me the first slide, please? Oops. Can we go
No.
back to the
Yeah, no, hang on.
previous one?
Hang on.
All the surprises are being shown right now.
Yeah, hang on a second. I need to share it. So let me
share
share.
the screen.
I need to share my screen. So.
So anyway, while Dan's sharing the screen, this morning we're going to talk about health, and I didn't put a comma between these two, and it's kind of interesting. I think it was supposed to be that way. Health belief and family constellations. So when you're doing family constellations, there's 4 categories that typically you can focus on. And today I'm going to use the theme of health to bring us through learning about family constellations. What I'm going to do is start with where I am now. I'm going to kind of use my personal story because when doing family constellations, often I don't remember what we've done in the constellations. Like I remember the format, but the information kind of goes with spirit. We're releasing a lot of things in family constellations. And I, as a facilitator, have that come through me, but I don't hold it because I don't want to hold other people's stuff. So, and if we're working through spirit, then we can easily just send that back to spirit where it came from. That's kind of a thumbnail sketch of family constellations. So today we're doing health, belief, family constellations. I'm going to start with something artwork that is the result of some of the healing work I've done with other practitioners, other healers. We're going to use the artwork as the picture book of this, and then we will talk about that, talk about how this relates to the whole ion theme and philosophy, because I think family constellations really works well with that. So, and then we'll end it if we can, and I don't know if we can do this online, but the people in the room will do one constellation, which takes maybe 20, 30 minutes if we have the time to do that. So that's kind of the format of today. And we can go to the second slide. So here's a piece I made called Humor, Healing Avatar Humor. And the headpiece this young woman is wearing is made out of the injector pods that you would inject a cannula into your body, like a little tiny, I guess, subcutaneous tube, that then is attached to an insulin pump reservoir, and that's put into an insulin pump. So this is part of the whole infusion system for type 1 diabetics to infuse insulin into their bodies. And there's a lot of material there. One of those pods is 3 days, and you change them every 3 days. So you start collecting a lot of these. So some of the inspiration for making art was a transformative process for me, turning medical supplies into art supplies, which not only opened my perspective on what I had to do to maintain my health, but also on the use of this trash that saves my life. So on her collar and around her waist are blood testing tabs. So many diabetics, whether you're type 1 or type 2, and I'm type 1, which means childhood onset, it was an autoimmune disease. Type 2 is a lowering function of your insulin absorption, maybe a lowering function of your pancreas. It depends on each individual. But everybody's supposed to test their blood sugar, and that means pricking your finger and seeing what the numbers are. So those have all been upcycled into humor, because if you don't approach things with humor, it gets a little dreary. Later in the talk, we talk about what Edgar Mitchell talks about, ecstasy. And I feel like joy is another maybe synonym of ecstasy. Joy, humor, things that bring our heart-opening experiences. Those are all ecstatic experiences. So that's all kind of what we're going to talk about today. So we'll go on to the next slide. Okay, so this one is called Regalia Wings, and it's about the power of choice. So in this world, we have choices, and we have to make choices every day. Again, we're focusing on health. So in the health world, this piece has probably 500 syringes and 10,000 blood testing tabs on it, all used by one person. That would be me. And I'm a little bit, you know how some people are hoarders? Well, I keep this stuff because literally I was like, I want to burn it on the bonfire of cure. When the cure comes, I have all this stuff, I'm going to burn it. Well, it hasn't gotten here yet, so I just make stuff out of it, bringing me to my ecstatic place, which is like a meditation for me, making these things. This is Wings of Choice, and in our healthcare system, we have choices. We can go the allopathic route, which is very direct. So allopathically on this journey, get prescribed insulin, make sure your numbers are right. There's a test called an A1C, and you get that done 4 times a year to make sure you're on target. There's a lot of things the allopathic community bring to healing. It's pretty, for many years in my life, it was very negative. So I cried until I was about age 36, and I was diagnosed at 3 when I went to the doctor. I would be like, I'm not doing this well enough, I'm not doing. Then I found energy medicine, and it's gentle. I would call it a more feminine energy. It's more nurturing. It allows you to be you, and then you can go with your masculine energy, your warrior energy, and go into, I have to do this with the allopathic, mainstream medicine. I'm going to put this stuff in my body. I'm going to do it. So we use our masculine energy with allopathic medicine, and with energy medicine, it's more of a nurturing experience. So one is kind of a savior mentality. I'll go to that authority figure, and that authority figure will save me. That's my insulin prescription syringes. The other is a little more, is holistic. It takes into consideration your body, your mind, and your spirit. And it's gentle. The first time I ever visited a healing sanctuary, they literally touched the area of my pancreas and my knee that was hurting. And so they had an intuitive feeling about me. And I just started crying in a joyful way. It was amazing to see that somebody actually saw me and felt what was there. So those are the two paths we're doing. And next slide, please. So here's Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who, he's like a great celebrity that brought all this together by his experience. So we heard a little bit of that earlier. He was on the Apollo 14 mission in 1971, and he just passed in 2016. So he has been doing this for a very long time, and we have to be really grateful that he's made this way of looking at things very popular. He was the sixth man to walk on the moon, and he was the founder of this group that we're meeting in today. And so he went out, so we're going to take the divine masculine and the divine feminine aspects of his trip. He was zooming out there as a scientist out in space, brand new frontier. There was a lot to get done. They had not the computers we have in our pockets today, but they had a lot of things they had to take care of in that capsule. So they're zooming out to space. They land on the moon. They spend 9 hours on the moon collecting samples, doing what they were trained to do. Very direct and powerful energy, and we call that masculine energy. So they're coming back, and they're in the capsule, and this is the quote that Dr. Edgar Mitchell said. And he calls it shamandi, which is the Sanskrit word for the trigger in your imagination. He said, you see things with the senses as they are, but you experience them viscerally and internally as a eunergy, and I think that is the union of energy, and oneness accompanied by ecstasy. So if we can picture that turning around, seeing the universe, and everybody in that moment was in awe. That was the ecstasy, and they did it all together. Now I mention that because in Family Constellations, we have that same experience. We're in a place together. We're unified in spirit because we open our hearts up to that, and amazing things happen. And I, as the facilitator, don't even know what's going to happen. I just ask the next question that comes to me as we're doing this. So I really loved that ecstatic experience in oneness is the basis of ions, and that's why Family Constellations translates so well to an energetic practice for like-minded people that are interested in this. So the next slide, please. Okay, so this is just another example of this is an example of you see things with the senses as they are. These are another form of insulin pump. This is one that you just stick on your body, and then you have a handheld device, and you program it to do what you want. So these I transformed them a little bit in this. I should have brought an actual one. So they're encased in a waterproof, indestructible unit, and I had to go to a makerspace and literally route off the edges to get to these beautiful circuit boards. So again, I'm looking at a device I have to stick on my body, and I'm like, I hate you. Then I have to come into my center, and I went and I manipulated these. I kind of destroyed them and transformed them, which is often what we're doing. It's like the Phoenix. And so I got the beautiful circuit boards, and I made something beautiful out of that, which aggravates me. Could I have the next slide, please? So in the end, this is the transformation of my biggest challenge into something beautiful. This is a scarf form, and there's a series of the scarf forms. You'll see one on a person later in this presentation. But it's about being in that moment seeing what you see things with the senses as they are. It started with more aggravation and irritation. And then as I manipulate them and work them and see them differently as art supplies now, I can then transform it to the second half of the experience. But you experience them viscerally and internally as an energy and oneness accompanied by ecstasy. So when I can make this, then I get comments from people reading it. It becomes a oneness. They said, oh my God, that's all your diabetes supplies? Or I understand what my sister's going through because, she has this too. So it's taking something difficult, creating something beautiful. And that's the transformation we look at in energy healing. That's what we're all about. And I think that is the transformation that Edgar Mitchell felt in the capsule. Mission, a little fear probably going in, a little drive, I gotta do it. And then when the mission's over and he can step back on the way home, it's like, whew. And you know that feeling. You've all been driven on a hard project and then you're like, oh, that's over. And there's something really expansive about working hard and then feeling the ecstasy of finishing and the results. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, I guess so. I guess it is. Okay, so just one more of these transformative opportunities that has come up. This is a graph of a constant glucose meter. The top of the graph in the yellow is 280 or above for blood sugar, which is really high. And below the white line is below 80. So in a day, this is one day, one record, and you can see, I call this the snaggletooth tiger graph. It is a blood sugar bouncing up and down all day long. And I can bounce emotionally with that too. So this is the data for the next piece. I look at these graphs and it's too much information. You can just go a little crazy with all the information. Sometimes they say more information is better, or we go to the other side and ignore it completely. I think the road of transformation is probably the best way to go. So, these are just numbers and I know what to do with those numbers. Okay, that's in the head. Then we sink it down to the heart, and could you show me the next slide, please? So I transformed this into a piece of art in the Blue Wing series. This is the back of the piece. This is the piece that would be against the body, so you don't really see this as much, but you can see the graphs more. So each of these squares is the beginning of a day, and then the graph of the blood sugar is going between, it's 24 hours, and then the next square is the next day. And it creates kind of a cool pattern. And so I was just into abstracting my data into a cool pattern and again transforming it into something beautiful. So if you give me the next slide. This is the finished piece. It's a little garish because sometimes that's how I feel about it, although beautiful and bright. So again, the transformation from having to do this thing, literally wanting the cure every day, to taking it to my studio and making it a meditation and transforming it into something beautiful. Next slide, please. So here's that particular form you've seen hanging up. It is now worn on a body. So I was doing this work, I was collecting the disposables, I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing, and then I'm like, hey, why am I just doing what is? Why don't I just project what I want? And that's a big question when we're working in health and in energy, is what do you want? What do you want? And that's a hard question sometimes. So this piece is called Fantasy, and it is a beautiful undulating line. There's no big highs, there's no big lows, and sprinkled throughout are pearls and amethysts and crystals and lovely gems representing moments in life that just pop up. I want to go for a walk. I want to eat a bowl of pasta. And in my life, I have to negotiate all of that. Well, how far am I going to walk? How much insulin's in my system? Do I need to eat a cookie? It's all a big negotiation. So my fantasy is to be wrapped in these beautiful undulating lines with these jewels that don't need to be navigated. So there's the end result of my kind of energy journey. So we're traveling back in time now. So next slide, please. So Bert Hellinger is the guy who developed Family Constellations. He was born in Germany in 1925, so between wars, and he was a teenager when he was in a Catholic youth group, and he was being watched by the Gestapo because you weren't supposed to do that stuff. And then he was drafted into the Nazi military machine at age 17. He was captured and put into a Allied prisoner of war camp and spent the rest of the war there. When he got out, he became a priest, a Catholic priest. And the beauty of the Catholic religion, and I was raised Catholic too, and I kind of broadened my perspective, as many of us do as I got older. But the beauty of the Catholic Church is they always leave room for mysticism. It was always like, well, it's a mystery beyond these walls. We can't explain everything. And I love that part about it because, I spent my childhood counting the red panes of glass in the stained glass windows, not really listening to what was going on out there, except for the guy named Jesus who healed people. So anyway, after that, he became a priest and he went to the Zulu nation and he learned with the Zulu people. And he learned about their ancestor reverence and he learned about their connection with the earth. And so all of these things started, being a part of his history. He then studied psychology and he developed family constellations from all these different experiences. The key premise to family constellations is, are you going to have loyalty to the group or to truth and inquiry? And that is what we examine in a family constellation. What happened in the group? What beliefs were in your raising, in your family, that were passed on to you? Do you believe that everybody in your family has heart disease when they hit 40? Do you believe that there's only one spiritual path? Do you believe? So we look at these belief systems, and then when they cause a chink in your life, when they're not working for you anymore, we do a process where we love them, forgive them, hand them back to where they came from, and replace them with something new. So we are going to talk through that and hopefully walk through that this afternoon. My training, the way I got into family constellations was, I knew I did something because I was still in pretty good health. Now I had blips on the screen when I was in grad school. I went blind in my left eye and I had to have 3 years of laser surgery. They said they couldn't fix that, but they could stop the progression. But through my belief, doctors always made me mad. They were always telling me terrible things, like, you're going to go blind, or amputated or whatever, all those things with diabetes. And I was kind of a fighter. I was like, F you, I am not, that won't happen to me. And then I brought my belief in because as a child, the healer thing was in my church. Jesus healed people. And so between both of those, I would sit and meditate and see like that, you are the clay image that's used in the Bible, and just see divine hands smoothing the retinas of my eyes. And so when I started, I had to continue to go to an ophthalmologist. And today, my left eye range is between 20/50 and 20/30. When I went in my 20s, it was 2200. It was legally blind. So I believe that through allopathic medicine, those laser treatments, and through my belief system, my eyes have improved vastly. And maybe there's just a little left because I need a reminder, like, keep up the good work because you know. So that's how I started. I knew there was something. I studied healing touch first. I loved that teacher, so I went on to take Rohan with her, which is the psycho-spiritual release of faulty thoughts. She only taught the first level, so I went to Delphi University in Mid-Kaysville, Georgia, and I was ordained a Reverend of Rohan. And then Family Constellations came to town, and I studied with John Moore, who was a second generation. So his teacher studied with Bert Hellinger, he studied with her, and then he facilitated how to facilitate Family Constellations with me. And because of my Rohan training, which is similar, he said, step out and do it. I think you're ready. And so that was about 3 years ago, and it's been going great ever since. Okay, so we're going to talk about Family Constellations now. So this is a NASA shot. I want to say it's from the Hubble, but it could be from something more recent than that. And I'm sorry I don't have but I know it's from the NASA website. Family constellations are described this way. So there's a constellations of stars in the sky. And if a cloud should cover a star, it's still the constellation. And then we relate it to our family. If we're a family and there's somebody missing in the family, somebody went off to jail, a sibling died, there's all different ways that people are missing from a family. Or if there's a missing trait from the family, like compassion or love or open-heartedness. These are the clouds that cover the love in a family constellation, in that pack we grow up in. And that's the analogy we use, which I'm really happy because of Edgar Mitchell and his space mission. It all goes back to Stardust. So there are, in family constellations, there's a process of connecting with spirit. And just in that, we're all connected together. So it's that oneness consciousness that we're together. Secondly, one person will be chosen by lottery if you're doing a group. You can also do these privately. And then you personally channel all the energy, which is kind of cool. And then through the process, and I'll go through the process, we go for release and transformation of those collective patterns. As children, we pick up things like, oh, this situation that let's say it's alcoholism. My dad is alcoholic. I'm going to help him with that. We're little children. We think it's a family pattern. We know that it's a family pattern, but it's an energetic pattern too. Not only is it physical, it's a spiritual pattern. And as children, often we want to help. And so we take on some of that energy. And as we grow up, what happens? Oh, I have this propensity to alcohol. I really like alcohol. Well, my family has alcoholism in it, and then you can go deep or you can reject it. But if it's a stumbling block and you want to release that spiritually, you might do a family constellation on that, because we can release it through our groups that we meet with physically and emotionally. But spiritually, we want to send that energy back to where it came. And it might have to go way back to the ancestors, because that might have just been I'm from Irish heritage, and it goes way back. So you can send it all the way back from where it came. And then you step in and you connect with a good thing. Like with the Irish, they're storytellers and they love to laugh. So why not honor the family by holding that energy instead of remembering the family through the negative energy, which is, challenging because we're kind of trained in negativity. So let's go to the next slide, please. Okay. So the process is we start in reverence, connecting our oneness, and each facilitator might do this differently. I like to open it by calling different names of the divine to the four directions, and that opens up the knowing field, and that's how we prepare. So next slide, please. And then you tell, the person who's having the constellation done tells a 5-minute story. So I'm going to do, based on the theme of today, I'm going to do my 5-minute story with diabetes. This is the syringe and needle. This is an artwork by Don Tompkins. It's his medallion series done in the 70s, and I couldn't find this syringe anywhere. This is the only place I could find it, and it ends up being art and beautiful, so I'm really happy about that. This was the syringe my mother had to give her 3-year-old daughter insulin, and this was in 1964. So it was like caveman time. Like, she would boil the glass syringe. She would use this needle over and over again and sometimes sharpen it. And then you would stick this 24 gauge needle into a small child. 24 gauges, if you know that if you have a pin nailer, I made a piece with 24 gauge pin nails, you know it's a pretty thick needle. Today, I think they're down to 32 gauge, which is a much tinier needle. It could even be smaller than that. But she had to do that. So I was diagnosed at 3. I have a big family, 5 brothers, 1 sister, raised Catholic, a little bit of that Irish going on in terms of the drinking situation. Jolly, happy, we had a lot of pranks, a lot of fun, and then we had some drama. And in the mix of all this, the first daughter that my parents have ends up being diagnosed with diabetes at age 3, maybe 3 and 2 months. I was really young. So that's my diabetes story. And now we're going to see how this is the last constellation. Like I said, I don't remember constellations too much that I do on other people. But this one really stuck with me, and it goes with the theme of today. So let's go to the next slide. And we're going to talk the process with this constellation I did about diabetes. So a constellation, the basic energy elements of it are the intuition of everybody. We're working with an open heart. We're in that connected oneness. And the people who work the constellation, who is everybody there, are just going on their feelings. Nobody can do this wrong. So what happens is the facilitator listens to that story and gets these pieces of paper. And the facilitator will write. So for the constellation that was done for me, there's Father is on a piece of paper, and that's handed by the person having the constellation. They put it on their heart and they hand it to somebody, okay? Then Mother goes on there. Nobody knows except the facilitator on the heart, goes to somebody else. Diabetes is written on another piece of paper because that's a major part of this constellation. Health and wellness were in this constellation. And diabetes, health and wellness, mom and dad. And then the person is themselves in the constellation. We'll keep it there because that's all I remember. So next slide, please. So all these pieces of paper, people have them in their hands. The person who's having the constellation stands in the knowing field, and then the constellation starts moving. So you say, how do you feel when you're standing by that character? And the person having the constellation might be like, I'm going to go over here. You ask all the characters, how do you feel? Where do you want to stand? So in this constellation, one character goes all the way to the next room. He's out of the room, okay? The next character is hiding behind the couch, because she's like, I just feel like I want to hide. I just don't want to be here. Another one was at my back, like on my back. I literally was like, this is death at my doorstep, and I'm gonna get away from her, and she would not leave me. And then there was another one just dancing around the room, just dancing like a fairy, just having a good time. So I think we need the next slide. So this is the movement.
Nope.
Oop.
You're back.
Back one. So you know the constellation's over when the characters stop moving. So the facilitator will keep asking questions. Do you want to come closer? You're looking at patterns in the room. You're looking at where everybody stops. When everybody is stopped and they're feeling like they're in the right place, because they are channeling the energy of the character on the piece of paper. That's the intention you have brought to a family constellation. This is who I am, the energy I'm channeling, and you don't know what it is. That's why it's so cool. Because there have been people that they sob in these things or are just so not themselves in it. So we go to open up these papers. Father was the angry one. We found out Father was really angry that his little cute 3-year-old daughter had diabetes, and he had to give her these giant shots because my mother wouldn't do it at first. Second person, fear was my mother. Oh my God, my baby's gonna die. Fourth one was health and wellness at my back. And the fifth one was diabetes, who was dancing and prancing, saying she was a teacher, just there to help, just doing my thing, no problem. So the way this constellation ended up was I understood that I was exhausted. The reason why I wanted to look at this was I was exhausted, and I thought it was because of the diabetes. What it was based on the diabetes, but what I had learned as a child, the pattern I had picked up as a child, was that I had to heal through the anger of my father to get to the love. And this is an intuitive little 3-year-old. And I had to heal through the fear of my mother to get to her love. And so what I did growing up was I was subconsciously doing this with people I met. And it was exhausting me. I didn't know why I was so exhausted. So what I learned was, I will do this work with anybody who asks, but they have to ask, and it has to be an equal exchange of energy. So, and that can be in many forms. So that's what I learned from Constellation. That's a little more abstract, but it still comes home because I had been doing healing work for a very long time, and this is what came up for me to know and understand. Next one. Okay, so then we go to closure. We do a closing, and we also reclaim our own energy. So everybody will shout their name out loud. They'll jump up and down and ground themselves on the ground because you want to release that which you've been chanting. So you ground into yourself again, and you go home as you, not carrying any of this energy that you are helping somebody else release. Is there another? I think, okay. So we're going to take questions. I'm just going to give you a little insight on this. Family constellations can be done as a group. They're really dynamic, and they're kind of cool that way. And we will, in the room, do one constellation, and I'll have some paper. You can write your name on it if you would like to experience that, if you'd like to be the one having the constellation done, because I think we'll have time. You can do private constellations. I practice private constellations with beanie babies, which is really kind of fun. My son They are a little collection that was collected in love. My youngest son collected these like up until he was in about 5th grade. In the sanctuary, the Giza sanctuary I worked in, she had stuffed healers, so that's why I do it. And it's always fun to see the character of the Beanie Baby and who that's representing. So you just, instead of people with a piece of paper, you put the piece of paper under a Beanie Baby, and you're moving the Beanie Babies all over the room, and the person having the constellation done does all the moving. And I just keep asking questions until it stops moving, and then we reveal the information. Questions. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
Can you do this with not the family you came into?
If you could talk on the microphone, appreciate it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was thinking, when you started talking, that does this work with the family you married into?
Yes.
We can do that. And how about offices of people that you've been working with, say, for 20 years?
Sure. This is mostly about understanding the energy you're absorbing. So if you want that done in either of those situations, it would work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If anybody online wants to ask a question, just raise your hand and I'll see it.
Mo, does this ever involve bringing in other lifetimes as part of your lineage for purposes of energy you're dealing with?
It can.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do in the healing process of family constellations is you line up all the ancestors behind you. So they're supporting you at your back.
Mm-hmm.
And you're handing that energy back to the source of it. So if it was your great-great-great-grandmother, she might show up in the story, so she'll be on a piece of paper, but if she doesn't show up in the story, she will be in that lineup of the ancestors, and it will heal it all the way back to great-great-grandmother. So the beauty of a collective consciousness is that we're not just healing it for ourselves and our immediate family, but it then goes into the collective and sends that vibration out into the collective. And so all of the work we know is healing not only ourselves, but the collective.
That would be true even if they passed on.
It would be true even if they passed on, because again, we talk about timelines and how they're coexisting. And so if we're healing it here, we're reducing it there, and so we get the benefit of that healing all through the ages, which is really cool. And Rohan that I do literally goes into past lives. You can do that. This one does, yes, because it's a heritage lineage. So the answer is yes.
Well, great. Hey, I love the wearables you create with all the paraphernalia. It was my younger brother passed away last year, had a lifelong global neuropathy, and was, for practical purposes, like a high functioning quadriplegic. He was in a wheelchair for the last 40 plus years of his life. But he functioned amazingly well, really, with his attitude about his predicament. And I personally had a dream recently where we played the same scene over and over and over, each time with a shift of perspective, and it completely changed the whole scene each time it was replayed, And so this is a bit like that, it seems to me.
Well, that is the truth of it.
Right.
That goes back to choices. And we can look at the dark side or we can look at the light side.
Right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
And Andrew online has his hand up.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm calling in from Southwest Virginia in Floyd. I've experienced family constellations in a group in Australia, and I loved it. It's so powerful. We did things a little bit differently, so without the pieces of paper. And the facilitator would sometimes, like the group might start off with, say, 4 people in the constellation, and they'd move around, and the facilitator might get the sense that something is missing, and then might call somebody else from the circle up to an unknown position, and the nature of that position would be resolved through what would then be forthcoming.
Mhm.
How do you adapt to that kind of thing if everything's written on the paper first? And is it you or the client who's writing the names on the papers?
So it's me writing the names on the papers. And yes, you can add more characters to the constellation if that feels like it's the right thing to do. I think different facilitators might have different styles. This is the way I learned to do it.
Sure.
And in Rohan, we don't use things on papers. It's all energetically communicated. In this one, I think it is the reveal that makes it so interesting. And kind of like, oh, I didn't realize that character was that. So I think it's based on style of the facilitator and maybe the way you learn to do it. But
Yeah,
I
sure.
think the end result is the same.
Okay, it's fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Would you tell us more about Rohan, please? Yes, I'd love to. Rohan is the psycho-spiritual release of faulty thoughts. It was developed by the founders of Delphi University in McKaysville, Georgia. What Rohan does is it goes into the energy body. The first level of Rohan is a card reading. So in a card reading, you would get one chakra. The chakra where you're holding the faulty thought is brought up. The second thing you get is the life. What lifetime brought this faulty thought to you? The third is, another card is the defensive self. So when we have faulty thoughts that we hold on to, we defend them because we needed them when we brought them in. Nothing is wrong, it's just maybe outlived. We've outlived that faulty thought. And then the next one would be the faulty thought. So that's kind of fun because it always, again, through spirit works out. If you're working with an open heart through spirit, the information always comes through, whether it's through a card, whether it's on a piece of paper. So you go through a process similar to family constellations. You forgive it, you love it, you release it into the light, is basically the process of Rohan. If you go deeper into Rohan, you can do a table session, which you're going through every chakra of the body. You're finding energetically what's there. And both of these modalities are client story driven. So it's not a psychic reading of your body. It is, okay, we're feeling this energy here. Do you feel this? And the client will say, yes, I feel that. And I'll say, what does that look like to you? And they tell their story. So it's all drawing the story from the client instead of going into their auric field and telling them a story. And that's why it's so therapeutic, because I'm not telling your story, you're telling your story, and I'm the one that facilitates the process to release these faulty thoughts. And then once you do it, you can do it on your own if that's how you feel like you'd like to do. And it's all about forgiveness, sending love, loving that part of you that held on to that faulty thought for so long, and releasing the defense. And there are basic defenses we have. We have unworthiness, we have fear, we have our core beliefs are basically, oftentimes you have to release those first. Then you can release a dutiful self or, a angry self. So we have different defenses we hold. The third phase of Rohan is releasing your abusers, your abuser side. So in many lifetimes, we might have been the abuser. And what happens in an abusive life, if we are the abuser, is we'll trade joy for power. We'll trade love for power. And so when you're doing caged work, you're recognizing that. You bring it back to the trickster, you throw it back on the trickster, and then you replace it with that which you traded for. Because it's like a Faustian trade. When you trade something good for power or might or whatever, you usually don't win that. So it's correcting that and bringing what you traded out back into your life. Is that answer? Thank you.
I got a question. Hey,
Hi, Martha.
Hey. So let's say somebody's married to an asshole.
Somebody might be.
Not him. No, but I'm actually thinking of my ex-husband, but I'm sure he's not on the Zoom call. So I mean, and because I run into this all the time with clients, and they're so angry, they're so fixated, and and then I reflect on my experience because I've actually been able, because of reading the raw material, Law 1, to release him and release that, and now we're sort of friends, kind of. And Bill's a saint because we actually lived with him for 2.5 months before our house. We were in a house, so that's a whole. So ask Bill how he's doing. But anyway, but what do you do? Like, because people come in all the time and they're like, oh God, and they're just stuck. They're stuck. And sometimes they're so stuck that they're sick. Because I have a lot of autoimmune clients, and so just kind of helping them have expanded awareness is because they're not wanting to let that one go. So, anyway, if you could speak to that.
Okay. The angry self is a really hard one to get a grip on because it feels so powerful. And if you release that angry defense, then you think you're going to be really vulnerable. And so it's a really hard defensive self to release. So in the Rohan process, you are the one who cares, and you push that defensive self out in front of you, and you look them in the eyes. And you say, you look for the negative emotions that the angry self is carrying. And you relate to the angry self, and you say, I know exactly how you feel. And so you, as the one who cares, is healing the angry self. So you understand you're in oneness with your angry self, and then you start to send it love. And you send it as much love as it's willing to receive. And sometimes the angry self isn't willing to receive love. It's like, no, I just want to be angry. I'm not loving this situation. And actually, my first training with Rohan, that's what happened. The person had an angry self, and they would not let it go. And I'm training, and I'm raising my hand going, and the teacher said, just let it go. Like, if they want to be in their angry self, they can be in their angry self, because that's where they feel safe. If you're willing and open, and you're that one who cares is usually stronger than those selves we protect ourselves with. That is your authentic heart, your open-hearted love. So you keep sending that, You keep sending that, and eventually you'll see a transformation in this defensive self, because we have to get rid of the defense before we can get to the faulty thought it protects. So you just are in that, starting with love or forgiveness and love. So you're sending love after you feel like you can embrace that angry self. Then you forgive each other and you say to your angry self, can you forgive me for holding on to this for so long? And the angry self will say, oh, I guess so. Yeah, I do. And you ask the angry self, well, actually, you ask the angry self to forgive you for holding onto it for so long. And then you forgive the angry self for bringing it into your life and keeping it there for so long. So there's a forgiveness and love that's happening between you and your angry self. But we have to acknowledge it. We have to acknowledge that they're there, and they're there for a reason. And we have to love it, forgive it, and then send it up into the light where it can learn to love and be loved and use all their gifts and talents. Okay? And that's why we do it, so we can use all our gifts and talents. We can send our wisdom out into the world. The Rohan prayer is, I send my, no, maybe I'm not supposed to say it. I won't say it here because it's not coming to me easily. But then you have an affirmation that calls in your divine masculine, your divine feminine, and then you send your energy out into the world to use all your love and all your wisdom, and you bring those opportunities that will allow you to do that to yourself. So you're just changing the magnetism of the energy you're sending out. And you want to attract all that is good. So maybe releasing the anger is a good thing. Or you could attract more anger. You know, it's a balanced system.
I noticed you had your hand up earlier, Alex. Is there something you wanted to ask?
Oh, I had a question about the dark energy. When you talk about dark energy and the oneness of the consciousness of the universe, how do you control or somehow keep that dark energy away from the light energy? Because there's a whole study or a whole chain of thought about light energy versus the dark energy.
I think and maybe dark energy is the wrong term, because it is our shadow side. Let's say that, like the shadow side of the moon. The light is just not shining on that. So when we do this work, we're literally releasing that into the light so that there's more room for the light to what do you say? You don't eliminate the shadow, you just illuminate the shadow. So that's what I don't think it's in this work, it's not an exterior force. It's something you hold yourself. And if you believe in many lifetimes, we can't have always been the princess or the prince. You know, we're here to experience life as humans, or spirits as humans, and we get to choose whatever we want to choose. Now, if the balance is, I am Attila the Hun in this life, then you might end up as somebody who cannot use their bodies, that has to use their minds, because that's a big transformative thing for your spirit. That's a broader understanding of how life as a spiritual being in a human body exists. Did that answer your question?
Kind of. I'm still trying to understand how the light energy, is it more powerful than what you say is the dark or the shadow? How do you?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. How do you what?
Oh, so how do you use the light energy more? Because you talk about the shadow.
Mm-hmm.
In order to have the shadow, you have to have the light.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have the light energy and you want to eliminate, I mean, do you want to eliminate the shadow, or what do you do with that shadow? You can't totally get rid of it because it's there and it's always been there, like you're talking about with Attila.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you cope with it? I mean, you talk about, I guess, coping with the shadow.
Well, one, as we go back to the beginning of the presentation, you may want to do that in collaboration with a person trained in personality, or like you might want to do an allopathic and a spiritual quest in that, because if your shadow is showing up a lot and it bothers you, you may need to do talk therapy with a psychologist, or there might be a chemical balance that you want to do with a psychiatrist or a medical professional if that is really, really prevalent. In your energy work, it's about releasing it from your spirit. So that's why I always recommend that you do a lot of this work in collaboration with our medical system, because sometimes that, what we call dark energy or a shadow, is literally a chemical imbalance or is something in the body that needs to be addressed. And in collaboration with that, if you're releasing those negative emotions spiritually, you're going to have really good outcome. So I think sometimes we cannot do the work alone. Often we do it with a facilitator, a spiritual facilitator or a physical facilitator, to bring about our highest and best healing.
Maybe Alex would be interested in reading Neil deGrasse Tyson's book, Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. He does a lot of information about dark energy and dark matter. And I realize that we're using terminology, one for a spiritual point, but perhaps he might be interested in a scientific point as well. Thank you.
Mo had sent it to me also, picking up on Alex's inquiry. And he had sent it to me like he might have been alluding to, without saying directly, the idea of something like possession, spirit possession. And is that something that either Family Constellations is actually works with, or have you ever encountered it in your work with? I mean, and that, in other words, in some instances, you have just the difference between elimination versus illumination.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're dealing with a hitchhiker spirit that is negatively charged in some way,
Mm-hmm.
how would you handle that?
Well, in Rohan, in the caged energy, we bring in, there's a whole process of bringing in Archangel Michael. We bring in divine guides and helpers in that circumstance. So you bring in Archangel Michael, and really there are signs, you know, as a facilitator, that show up in the Rohan reading that you know it's not of this person. And those show up. You bring in Archangel Michael. Archangel Michael wraps this in a net of protection and takes that into the light. So really the facilitators don't do that work. It is calling on other dimensional guides to take care of other dimensional things. And that's really, and I have experienced that. And I just say, bring in Archangel Michael. The other part of that is that in some of the processes, you are given tools to illuminate that yourself. So, and that's the deepest work. The first level, like a Rohan card reading is a taste. A Rohan table session, you go through 3 sessions of purification of your victim spirit, of your victim energy, because you can get attachments if you're living solely in your victim energy. It looks for weakness to just hitchhike onto. You know we are in control of that, and one of the ways to protect yourself is to keep building up your light and releasing that which is negative in yourself. And you're creating a stronger spiritual body to hold more light, so you're not attracting those things that are interested in attaching to you. That's why we also have our professionals that help us to become grounded in whatever medicine we might need to. And I'll just put a little footnote on that. I still believe that we can be cured from all our stuff. Sometimes it just takes a process we're learning from. Like for me, I had to eat right my whole life. And what the cool thing is, the pattern that carried on are my kids are the biggest foodies ever. Like they know how to cook. They're 2 boys, know how to cook, eat really healthy. Like my oldest one grows a lot of his own food. So the reason we heal is that then we pass it on something brighter and better to the next generation too, and to our conscious collective. I also feel like if we stay in those negative vibes, in listening to the news and politics all day long, we're sending out the vibration because it annoys us. But if we can feel that ecstasy, like Edgar Mitchell was talking about, and we hold that, let's even say 50 to 75% of the day, normal to ecstasy, we're sending that out, and it's literally healing all of us. Can you imagine if everybody smiled when they walked by you? You just feel better all day long. And so it's a subtle energy that we're sending out too. Sometimes it looks like magic, and sometimes it's just being nice. And like we used to say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. Those are simple facts that will heal people and the earth.
So Alex, you have your hand up again?
Alex?
It's Mike's muted.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the mic. To your point about the vibrational energy, where you talk about increasing, I'm assuming you're talking about increasing the vibrational energy, not decreasing it.
Right.
Right. So
well, we have control over either or in our own lives.
Right. But I think in most of our cases, we think about increasing our vibrational energy towards, because like when you look at light energy, the vibrational energy of light, I believe, is higher than dark energy. The dark energy is a lower vibration. In physics, like the lady was talking about dark matter. And how can you, like, I am a diabetic, so I was really interested in your whole metaphor with the diabetes, but I'm a type 2. So I take it as diabetes is a shadow, a physical shadow for me that I have to overcome also. And it's one that I did not have at birth, but developed over time. But I'm trying to take steps, many things, medically, emotionally trying to overcome how you eat, what you eat, talking to groups, all those things that you described to try and overcome that shadow. But the A1Cs. But how do you measure? I guess the increase in the vibrational energy. I mean, how do you put a goal? I guess is my question. What is the goal that you're trying to reach with this vibrational energy? Is there a tangible goal?
Well, I'll tell you what, in my world, when I'm in joy, when I'm on vacation sitting by the beach, when I'm in joy, and that could be laughing with my friends, it literally sends out serotonin, dopamine into my system, and my blood sugars are much easier to control. So if we want to look at, I have to work this thing, I'm working this hard, and this is what I was saying in my artwork. It is a lot of work if you're living with a chronic condition. There's work there all the time. So the switch is, how do you look at this situation as, oh my gosh, this is the best teacher I ever had, and how am I going to find joy in it? Now, I had a friend, and you're probably feeling this way about me right now, who I met 24 years ago, and she said to me, we had the same insulin pump, and she says, Mo, you gotta learn to love your diabetes, or you won't survive it. And I was livid. I was like, but she said it to me, and she was on the same mechanics I was, and she was living a similar situation as I was. And so I stepped back and I said, okay. She said it, I tackle anybody else in the world that said that to me, but she said it. So I took that as something to think about, and then I could start thinking, oh my gosh, like I said, my kids are great at exercise and food, and so even if it's not perfect in my life, I can see the vibration going out into other lives, and they just pick it up. Good eating, exercise, sleep right, as normal. Okay, so I kept trying. I cheat all the time because I want to be normal eating sugar. They don't eat sugar because that's their normal. It's an interesting transformation. So I would say the shadow, look at it as a teacher you don't like, but the information the teacher gives you is really good. And then go for your joy. Whatever brings you joy that's not destructive to your body, like if you want to run, if you just find joy in running, or if you just find joy in drawing a picture or making bread, there's a lot of things that can just bring you joy just for the doing. And that's how I think that will change a lot about blood sugar. Because if we want to metaphysically, I've heard diabetes is an autoimmune disease. It attacks the body, and we've forgotten joy and we've forgotten play. And so the sweetness of life, and we hoard it by sugar, but not by the experience of life. So I say go have a sweet life instead of sweet blood. See what happens. There's no harm in experimenting and trying.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you, everybody. Those are great questions, and I really enjoyed sharing this modality with you today. I don't know if we can do a Zoom with the family constellation thing, but we can do one if that works. What do you think? Okay. All right.
We can see what happens with another microphone, but I don't know.
Well, I'd say It's best in person. Well, no, somebody does it online. We can try if you're willing to kind of watch and participate online. Great. We're gonna put our chairs in a circle and we're gonna try it in the room for those that want to.
You can be creating a new modality.
A new modality. This is a lot of people. Usually groups of 10 are great, but to observe is really good too, and to hold the energy of it is really great. So if you'd like to stay and do that, we got to collect some paper and a pen. And what you're going to do in the audience, if you'd like to be in the lottery to have your constellation done, there's something that you'd just like to release, you think it's a pattern, then put your name in the hat and we'll draw a name from the hat. We can start right now by opening our constellation or our knowing field. We're kind of there already, so we don't necessarily have to do that because we've done it with the meditation. We've raised our vibration. So right now, while we're gathering some of the supplies, let's just close our eyes and I'll do a little meditation to open this one. So we call on all our divine guides and loved ones, those that care for us and our ancestors. And we see and feel you here now, opening this space, creating this knowing field that the person having a constellation done today, this constellation will speak to many in the group. We know and affirm that we are human beings, spiritual beings living a human experience. And we are so happy to be in this group of oneness, helping one another to become brighter and abundant and flourishing in every aspect of our lives. And so we feel our feet on the floor. We feel that human nature that we are, creating roots that go into Mother Earth. We are planted here now, and we're doing the best we can. And we bring that energy up from Mother Earth. And we feel it rising up our legs and into our heart. And from our heart, we send a lasso of love and light into the universe, and we just collect the wisdom and wonder of the universe into our lasso, and we bring it back down into our heart. And we feel the mixture of that spiritual sense that we are and the physical being that we are, just mixing in our hearts, spreading out through the body, and knowing that we are connected to divine source at all times. And so we set the intention to bring this divine source into our heart, into our bodies, knowing that we are a channel of love and light, and so it is.
I have divinely sourced little pieces of paper and a pencil.
Great.
So if anybody wants to put their name in the basket, just let me know and I'll bring you a piece of paper.
Let's do that, and then let's just curve around some of these chairs so we can kind of be in a circle.
Want to do it?
So if I'm going to have this on Zoom, it should be
we gotta
around
stay
here.
here. Okay.
Well, I would prefer it. Just move a couple of chairs over there.
Okay.
Now, do people just put their name? And
Yeah, just your first name.
Okay.
Just your first name.
Can we put ex-husbands' names in?
No, you can only put your name in. But if you want healing around that family situation, your name will be pulled. So that's come up twice today.
Just put asshole. We'll know.
That would be on the paper that I write.
So do you just need Do you just need a chair for each person that would be in the family constellation?
Well, that's why I'm wondering if we shouldn't just say, see you later, guys on Zoom, and do this in the room, because it moves. It's a moving situation, and so. Okay, well, then
Oh,
maybe
no.
we turn this around out this way. Like turn the camera facing.
Yeah,
Put some chairs out here.
okay, so Carol said she'll man the webcam, so.
Oh,
All right, well, just do whatever.
okay.
Do whatever. I
Dan,
just,
do you want your name down or no? Probably not.
no.
over there.
So what we'll do first is once we pick a name, I'm gonna have that person come up and stand beside me. And
I
then
only
they're
have
gonna
so
tell their
much
5-minute
length on the
story.
camera, so.
And we can do that like this. And then we're gonna start giving characters to the people in the audience to represent. So that's how we'll start first.
So we should get moving.
We're moving. They're writing names on papers.
I just want to say that I've done this with Mo before, and it's so organic, it's so intuitive, and it's really a lot of fun. So I didn't put my name in because I've done it before, so go for it, guys.
And I know it's gonna be a quick one because we have what, till 12:30 today, and
I
that
don't have a
includes
whole lot of
lunch,
time.
so
I gotta
it
get out
should
of
be
here.
one that works pretty quickly.
And I have to get out of here pretty soon after we finish, so.
Okay.
And I also need to let this record.
So
onto my computer.
we're putting that intention out there into the universe that we'd like a nice short demonstration of family
No,
constellation.
I was thinking 12, not 12:30.
You know, I'll also need.
I'm playing this afternoon.
Yeah. Oh, there we have it, okay. So I'm gonna have Tom pick this, so it doesn't, so it keeps everybody honest. Okay?
Here's the little piece.
Susanna.
Susanna's our,
Well, okay, I guess I could always get it from you later. If that's what needs to happen, but I need to pack all my stuff
okay,
up and get out
Susanna,
of here.
you come up here.
And I wasn't planning on eating anything. I was planning on packing up at 12 and getting out of here.
No, I didn't. I had no
Okay,
idea.
Susanna, over here.
Not
You
12.
want a pad or you want?
Well, it doesn't matter, I
want a
just.
situation.
Okay, Susanna, over here.
Well, we don't normally keep going.
Okay, Susanna, based on what you learned about family constellations, why don't you tell us your story and what you would like?
And speak into the mic.
Tell us your story and what you want.
I have an estranged family member that I would like that bond to heal. It's been going on my whole life. And I just sense that it's time for it to resolve.
Okay, and tell me a little bit about the family you grew up in.
I am a daughter of two refugees from China, so there was trauma there. They escaped the communist government, came to the United States to study, and my dad eventually sent for my mom and my sister. And so we were raised with very traditional Chinese/Chinese-American values, and that tiger mom thing was kind of there, like, don't show approval, it'll make your kids soft. And so, I think that energy probably pervaded confused all of our relationships. So it's, a lot of it is healed, but some of it has been sticky.
And tell me a little bit about that.
Are we not continuing with
Let's see, very smart and hardworking, fairly detached when I was growing up, but
I guess
did a lot
we
of dumb
won't
healing
hear
work,
anything
and
that
was
anybody
very
has to say.
introspective and wise soul. Taught me a lot in the end, very caring person.
And you and your sister?
Tension. Yeah. A lot of tension. It feels like stuck in judgment. Yeah, that hasn't moved much.
And what is your sister's name?
Do you mind saying that? You can make up a name for it. Okay, let's call her Kathy.
Okay. Okay, and this estranged person, what is the circumstance around this estranged person?
Let's see, just it was sort of deteriorating over time, gotten worse, especially around the time my dad passed away, around the time my husband passed away, around the time I had a spiritual awakening, which upset the whole family. And as Carol said at one talk, you know, it's hard to tell if you're having a psychotic break or a spiritual awakening. So I wasn't ever quite forgiven for that. And it just went from bad to worse.
Okay. Is this a relative?
Yes.
Can you name the relative? Like the title of the relative? Like grandma?
What, the estrangement?
No.
Sibling.
Sibling, okay. And okay, so what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna write these. First, what I want you to do is pick somebody in the room to represent you right away while we're picking characters.
Name again, Olga?
Oh, right. Okay, so Olga's gonna represent you right now. Okay?
Yeah, you do that.
That's okay. It's inevitable.
Back in the camera.
It's shadow work.
Yeah. Do that.
Olga, you can stand anywhere in the room you feel comfortable.
No, wait.
Okay, so I want you to place this on your card, and I want you to pick the person that will represent that.
I look at it?
No.
That I am again.
No, we don't look these until the end. They're for the energy it's carrying us. This helps me to remember who's where in what place. Okay, this one is. And what is your name again? Smoke. They can move wherever they want right now. I gotta put an adjective in here. Okay. This is the last one we're gonna do. Who did you just give that last one to? Bill. Bill?
They still need a microphone.
Oh, we can hear.
We can hear it live. We can hear it in the room. Yeah, I gotta change the settings.
And what is your name?
Robert.
Robert.
Okay. One more. Okay, one more. Did you turn me off? Oh, it's on there. Okay.
Use the computer.
Dan has to leave, so he has to break down.
Did we say goodbye to everybody? We just
He
cut off?
did.
Okay.
You're just gonna.
Maybe you get called in again? Okay. All right, Susanna, how do you feel standing right there? Pretty good. All right. Is there anywhere you'd like to go? Or anyone that you'd like to go to?
Oh, okay. Turn this off. Spelled out.
Okay. Anybody in the room feel like they want to move? Just making some noise over there, huh, Martha? Good. Show us how to move. Anybody else? Anybody else feel like they want to move? If they're drawn to anybody in this room, like these two were drawn together. Sandy, how are you, or Sally, how are you feeling there? Okay. Robert, where's Robert? How are you feeling? You're good? All right. Bill, where, do you want to move anywhere?
I kind of want to stand here. Like halfway between.
Carol.
you and this lady.
Okay. All right. And that's Sally. Smoky. Okay. All right. Martha's still good there? Ooh, Martha's got her arms crossed. She's doing it. Can I move? You can move. Where do you feel like you need to move? Yeah. Okay. Okay, Susanna, I want you to give this to the person, put it on your heart, give it to them.
So this group or anybody?
Anybody that doesn't have a character.
Let's see.
I guess it could be in the group if you really feel necessary. If you're really drawn to that. Somebody else.
It's Martha.
was the best person to get
No,
on.
if you don't feel it, you can say no.
No, I thought I heard you say somebody who's not already in the group.
She said,
If you feel like you should take it, then you can take it. Okay, all right. Okay. So you're hanging out with this group. That's a pretty strong group. You're in a straight line. And, okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to go stand near Robert and see how that makes you feel, Susanna. Okay, Robert, how do you feel when she's standing by you? You feel a change? No change. Okay, all right. Susanna, let's bring you over.
Just need a little space. Martha.
That's okay.
You're enjoying this way too much.
And how do you feel about Bill?
Yeah, just do that. I'll do everything.
I'm curious, like, I want to talk to them, like, well, what's up? You know?
Phil, how do you feel about that?
Yes. Insane.
Okay, so you feel like you can talk to her?
Yeah. I'm feeling a little shy right now, actually.
Okay, all right. How do you feel about his shyness?
Tender.
Okay.
I'm known to be a sensitive person.
Now, when she says she feels tender about you, how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
And we're channeling the energy of this character, so
Yeah.
you just say what comes to you.
I guess I feel like I need to be loved.
Okay. When you look at Martha, you already told us, right?
Yeah, I have.
Martha, how do you feel when she's near you? What do you want to do?
I want to make up, but I want to be afraid. So I'm conflicted.
Okay, all right. Okay. Who else do we have in this constellation? Is this it? Group right close in? Oh,
Yeah.
Sally. Sally, let's see, I gotta check my list. Sally, do you feel comfortable there, or do you want to come into the constellation more? Okay, all right. And we just put somebody in the constellation. Who did we put in?
No, I had in Martha.
Oh, Martha has both. Okay. Martha, how do you feel about Sally sitting way over there?
No. I wish she'd come closer, but I respect her choice.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. All right. Now, Susanna, where in the constellation, if you were going to move anybody in the constellation, who would you move?
I'd like Robert to come closer.
Okay. Where do you want him to stand?
Over here.
Robert, how do you feel when you're standing?
Sounds like an obvious thing to say, but I feel like now I'm like surrounded by people.
Okay.
But I like that sense that.
And you're surrounded by people. Does that make you feel better, worse, the same?
It's not really positive or negative. I just feel like now I'm around people, whereas before I felt like I was very far away.
Okay, so you feel a part of instead of apart from. Okay. Is there
Can I bring
anybody?
those two in too?
Sure, bring them
I'd just
in.
like to bring everybody in closer.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Olga's not actually a character. She was representing Susanna in the beginning.
That's right.
Okay.
I'd like everybody to stand closer. I'd like this to stand in a little circle.
Okay. And what, how do you feel in this circle?
It's about time.
Okay, all right. And Sally, how are you feeling out there? She's moving, she's on the move.
She's moving. Let's make space.
And who are you feeling you'd like to be closest to in this little tight circle? We have a pretty powerful circle going on right here. We're like a supernova. So is there anybody in particular you just feel drawn to? No.
Probably because we're so tall.
Now, when you do that, go into your heart and say, who do I really feel like I want to be close to? Just feel it from your heart. You're fine there. This is where you want to be. Susanna, how do you feel and where do you want to be?
I want you in the middle. I want everybody.
All right, does everybody feel like they're in the right place? You're all good? Are we ready to reveal who we are?
Sure.
All right, I want these two to reveal first because they're standing behind you.
All right, let's see. I am deceased.
So interesting, he ends up behind you because he is a past, though it's still present.
Yeah.
But when you wanted to speak to one another, it was tender, a little shy, you know, that there was still some lovely feelings there between you. Would you open up both of yours?
This is my role. Refugee running from home.
So that is kind of behind you, but then look at the next one that she felt comfortable taking.
Estranged one missing family member.
So that pattern might be the pattern. So we have this traumatic experience of being, leaving that homeland, leaving the homeland, coming into a new place, and this estranged one is holding that pattern, okay? So let's open up, and then we're gonna, let's do the healing with this one right now. So I want you to hold the hands of the estranged family member. And with the estranged family member, just speak the words from your heart that you want to say to this estranged family member. I love you so much. I know this distance between us. I never wanted it. And I forgive you, and I thank you for the role you played in my life, helping me, protecting me, and helping me be stronger and wiser. Learning so much. And then you have the best of intentions. And that you did it with a lot of love. Even though it was hard for me. So, strange family member, do you have something you'd like to say to Susanna?
I'm sorry I hurt you. You're the best. You're the best of us. I also like to do it. What they like to do. Yeah.
So we now understand that that pattern was directly related to each other. And so let's do a little love and forgiveness. So look at your estranged family member and say, I forgive you. I forgive you for this pain I feel in my heart. It's my pain because of the love I have for you. And so I will honor you. And tell us some good qualities of this estranged family.
So smart and funny and talented and hardworking and strong and creative and disciplined. You're a good mama, good wife, good daughter, dad, good care of them.
So say, I will hold these qualities.
I will hold these qualities
that connect me to you at all times.
that connect me to you at all times.
And I open my heart.
And I open my heart.
And our circumstance.
And our circumstance.
Thank you. Does the estranged one want to say anything?
He just brought me. I just had this huge surgery from the top of my head. Try this. I know everything is here. My work fell on the floor.
And it's beautiful. The estranged one is so close. So let's just see who else is in this constellation that are tight. This is a tight group. This is the tightest group I've ever worked with.
Really?
So let's reveal who Robert is.
Mom.
Mom. So Mom has always been there. She's a little, not a lot of emotion coming from Robert, but still liking to be a part of. That's a funny word. So is there anything you'd like to say to Mom?
Thank you, Mom. I love you. Thank you for your sacrifices and care, giving us a better life. Thank you for trying your best with all of us. And for your courage to leave China so young. Your hard work and fortitude made the family what it is and gave us the lives that we have.
It was a very strong sense when they didn't want to interact, that it made me feel very, I don't have any like feeling or emotion, but just like when you guys came together, it was hard to not cry. It's really hard right now. I'm still, I think I'm gonna cry actually. I just felt like I waited a long time for you guys to just come together and just talk.
And so say, Susanna.
Susanna,
I am your mother.
I am your mother.
And you are my daughter.
And you are my daughter.
I am the big one.
I am the big one.
And you are the little one.
And you are the little one.
And I know some parts of our lives were difficult for you.
I know some parts of your life were difficult for you.
We were doing the best we could do.
But we were doing the best that we could do.
And you can reiterate that joy you felt in the reunion if you'd like to.
It made me very happy to see you guys just come together and waited a long time for that.
And if you'd like to hug, go ahead. Okay, let's open up Sally's paper. No, let's open yours. We'll do Sally last.
Sister.
So is sister the same as the estranged one?
That's who I was referring to, but there was another sister.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So this must be the other sister.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you feel about that?
It makes sense. She was